Good afternoon, everyone. Today's topic is histology of bone. Histologically speaking, bone is a rigid form of connective tissue in which extracellular matrix is impregnated with inorganic salts. Okay, so it is a modified type of connective tissue in which extracellular matrix is impregnated with inorganic salts. Coming to the general features of bone, this is a long bone, and as you can see, the shaft is tubular. This is the shaft, and the shaft is tubular, and it is enclosing the marrow cavity. This is the marrow cavity. Lining the walls of this tube or the walls of this marrow cavity, you have got a hard, dense material with no spaces and which appears to have a uniform, smooth texture. That hard, dense bone is called the compact bone. Okay, so in the long bone, in the shaft lining the medullary cavity, you have compact bone. Coming to the ends of long bone, in the ends of long bone, you can see that the marrow cavity is not extending into it. This marrow cavity is not extending into the ends of the bone, right? It is not extending. Whereas the ends of the bone is filled with meshwork of tiny rods or plates of bone called trabeculae, and in between there are numerous spaces resembling a sponge. That is why this is known as spongy or cancellous bone. So to be clear, in the shaft lining the marrow cavity you have got compact bone. On the ends of the bone you have got spongy bone. Okay. Now at the bone ends where the bone participate in the formation of a joint, that is when the bone participate in articulation, you will have a cartilage that is known as articular cartilage. With the exception of this area covered by articular cartilage, the outer surface of bone is covered by periosteum. This is the periosteum, right? And the wall of marrow cavity is lined by endosteum. So outer surface of bone is covered by periosteum and the wall of marrow cavity is lined by endosteum. Coming to bone marrow, the marrow cavity is present within the shaft of long bone. So the marrow cavity and the spaces of spongy bone is present on either sides or either ends of the bone, right? So the marrow cavity and the spongy bone are filled by highly vascular tissue known as bone marrow. Bone marrow is of two types. There is red marrow and yellow marrow. So this is the red marrow. At the bone ends, you can see that it is very rich in blood vessels and also hemopoietic tissue. Hemopoietic tissue means tissue that give rise to blood cells. Okay, so they are blood stem cells which give rise to RBCs, that is red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets. So red marrow is rich in blood vessels and hemopoietic tissue, and it is present on either side or either ends of the bone. The next type is yellow marrow. So bone marrow is of two types. You have got red marrow and yellow marrow. Yellow marrow is present in the shaft of the bone of an adult. It is yellow because it is predominantly made of fat cells and there are only very few islands of hemopoietic tissue. As you can see in this figure, as the age progresses, the red marrow is gradually replaced by yellow marrow. In fetus or a young child, the entire bone marrow is red, but it is gradually replaced by yellow marrow as the patient ages. So we have already seen the outer covering of the bone is periosteum. The marrow cavity is lined by endosteum, right? So talking about periosteum, periosteum has got two layers. There is an outer layer and inner layer. This is the outer fibrous layer and this is the inner cellular layer. Outer layer is fibrous and inner layer is cellular. And there are vessels which go from the periosteum and enter the bone to supply it. Okay. In young bones, the inner layer is the cellular layer. Cellular layer contains numerous osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are bone forming cells, so it is osteogenetic. In adults, the osteoblasts are not conspicuous. It contains predominantly osteoprogenitor cells. And these osteoprogenitor cells can form osteoblast when need arises. Osteoprogenitor cells are stem cells for bone cells. Okay, so they give rise to osteoblast when need arises, as in fracture. In young bones, inner cellular layer is composed of osteoblast. In adults, we have osteoprogenitor cells which will get converted into osteoblast when there is need, such as in fracture. So coming to the functions of periosteum, there are four main functions. It acts as a medium through which muscles, tendons and ligaments are attached to the bone. And we have seen this already. There are blood vessels passing from the periosteum to the bone. So it have a nutritive function. This also we have seen in the cellular layer or the inner layer. There are many osteoprogenitor cells. So it helps in bone formation. It also prevents bone tissue from spilling out. This is a function of fibrous layer of periosteum. Now we'll see each of these functions. First function was it acts as a medium through which muscles, tendons and ligaments attach to the bone. Here you can see the tendon is attaching to the fibrous layer, or it is attaching to the periosteum. Where very firm attachment of a tendon is necessary, fibers of tendon will continue into the outer layer of the bone. These fibers of tendon continuing into the bone are known as perforating fibers of Charpy. Perforating fibers of Charpy. Second function is that it provides osteoprogenitor cells, the cellular layer of periosteum. Periosteum can form bone when required. This helps in development and also repair of a fracture. Third function is it prevents bone tissue from spilling out. This is a function of the fibrous layer of periosteum, which is the outer layer of periosteum. If periosteum is torn, as you can see here the periosteum is continuous, but here a tear has happened in the periosteum and the osteogenic cells has spilled out, leading to bone formation in the surrounding tissue, that is exostosis. And also this is presented as a theory for the formation of tubercles, greater tubercle, lesser tubercle, and for the formation of tubercles over the bone. Tubercles form at sites where a tendon pulls, and when the tendon pulls, periosteum is lifted off from the bone, leading to a gap formation which is filled by the proliferation of bone, leading to tubercle formation. So these are the four functions of periosteum. It acts as a medium by which the tendons, muscles and ligaments attach to the bone. It provides osteoprogenitor cells. It has nutritive function because of the blood vessels entering from periosteum into the bone. It prevents bone tissue from spilling out. Now coming to the elements comprising the bone tissue, these are the cellular elements. We have osteoprogenitor cells, we have osteoblast, osteocyte, osteoclast and bone lining cells. We will see about each one of them. First of all, about osteoprogenitor cells, we have already seen osteoprogenitor cells are present within the cellular layer of periosteum. These are stem cells. They are of mesenchymal origin and they resemble fibroblast in appearance. They proliferate and convert themselves into osteoblast. In fetus, osteoprogenitor cells are found at numerous sites where bone formation is taking place. In adults, they are present on bone surfaces on both the periosteal and endosteal aspects. So osteoprogenitor cells are the stem cells which get converted into osteoblast when in need. Second type of cells is the osteoblast. Osteoblast are the bone forming cells. So they line the growing surfaces of bone. In this picture you can see that it has got an epithelium like appearance. Osteoblast has got epithelium like appearance, but if we look closely we can see that they are of varied appearances. Each cell is of varying shape and that there are gaps in between them. So it's not at all like epithelium, but it is not at all like epithelium because it has got varied shapes and there are gaps in between. It has got a nucleus which is ovoid and euchromatic, and the cytoplasm is basophilic. Cytoplasm is basophilic because of the presence of abundant rough endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, it has got abundant rough endoplasmic reticulum and also well developed Golgi complex. So the rough endoplasmic reticulum and the well developed Golgi complex indicate towards the synthetic activity of osteoblast. It is a bond forming cell. So because of the rough endoplasmic reticulum, the cytoplasm is basophilic, and they have got cytoplasmic processes which are radiating from each cell into the and comes into contact with similar processes of neighboring cells. Coming to the function of osteoblast, they are bond forming cells, so they lay down the organic matrix, helps in calcification of the matrix. They shed off matrix vesicles that serves as points around which formation of hydroxyapatite crystals take place. It also influences resorption of bond by inhibiting or stimulating the activity of osteoclast. Okay, these are the functions of osteoblast. Now this is osteoma of the forehead. It is a benign tumor of osteoblast. This is the surgical removal of the same. So this is the malignant tumor of osteoblast, that is the osteosarcoma. It is seen in and around the knee joint. Next cell is osteocyte. Osteocyte is a cell of mature bone and it lies within the lacunae. You can see the space is the lacunae, and within it you can find a osteocyte. It is considered as an osteoblast that is imprisoned in the matrix during bond formation. This is the matrix, this is the bond matrix, right? And within the bond matrix you can see a lacunae, and within the lacunae you can see the osteocyte. And in this picture you can see that osteocytes, just like osteoblast, they have numerous cytoplasmic processes which are communicating with the cytoplasmic processes of nearby cells. And this has got an eosinophilic cytoplasm. Osteoblast had basophilic cytoplasm because of the rough endoplasmic reticulum, but here the cytoplasm is eosinophilic because there is only very scanty, very small amount of endoplasmic reticulum, and there is negligible secretory activity, and the number of osteocytes gradually decreases with age. In this picture you can again appreciate osteocyte within a lacunae. Coming to the functions, it maintains the integrity of lacunae and canaliculi, keep open the channels for diffusion of nutrition through bone, and it also helps in the removal or deposition of matrix and of calcium when required. Coming to next type of cells, that is osteoclast. Osteoclast, they are bone removing cells and they occupy pits called resorption base or lacunae of house shape. These are the osteoclast or the bone removing cells. Now these are very large cells, as you can see, and it contains numerous nuclei, and the cytoplasm contains numerous mitochondria and lysosomes containing acid phosphatase, and the surface of osteoclast is showing many folds, right? And that is known as the ruffled membrane. So osteoclast is the bone removing cell. Bone removal can be stimulated by factors secreted by osteoblast, macrophages or lymphocytes, or parathyroid hormone, which is secreted by the parathyroid gland. If you remember, we have studied this as a function of osteoblast. It helps in bone removal by osteoclast. Okay, so osteoclast is involved in the demineralization and removal of matrix. Osteoclast, they are derived from monocytes. Monocytes give rise to macrophages and also osteoclast. Next, there are bone lining cells which are present as a continuous epithelium-like layer on bone surfaces where active bone deposition or removal is not taking place. If there is active bone deposition, there will be osteoblast. If there is active bone removal, there will be osteoclast. So if it is inactive, where there is no active bone deposition nor removal, you will find bone lining cells, which are very flattened cells found in the periosteal surface and endosteal surface, and also lining the spaces and canals within the bone. So you have osteoprogenitor cells, osteoblast, osteoclast, osteocyte and bone lining cells, 5 different types of cells. Coming to the organic and inorganic constituents of bone matrix. Organic matrix contains ground substance in which collagen fibers are embedded. You have already studied about ground substance. It contains glycosaminoglycans, proteoglycans and water. 2 special glycoproteins that are found within the bone are osteonectin and osteocalcin. And the collagen, there are different types of collagen as you know, and the collagen present within the bone is the type 1 collagen. Then coming to the inorganic ions, they are predominantly calcium and phosphorus. Calcium, phosphorus and hydroxyl ion are present mainly as hydroxyapatite crystals. As you can see here, they are needle-shaped crystals and they lie parallel to collagen fibers and contribute to the lamellar appearance of bone. We will learn about lamellar appearance of bone soon. Coming to pathological correlation, fluoride ion is again an inorganic ion that is present within the bone matrix, and if the fluoride ion level is high in drinking water, this fluoride ions can get deposited, leading to formation of exostosis. So we have seen 2 conditions where exostosis can develop. One is tear of the fibrous periosteum, which will lead to spilling out of the osteogenic bone tissue. Second one is skeletal fluorosis, or the excessive presence of fluoride ions in drinking water. It can lead to formation of exostosis. In radiation poisoning, the normal calcium and phosphorus, it can get replaced by radioactive calcium or phosphorus, leading to tumors and leukemia. We have utilized this for medical. So we utilize radioisotopes of calcium and phosphorus to do bone scanning, because it will get deposited wherever new bone is being formed. So it can be utilized for bone scanning. So different types of bones, according to histology, they can be divided into compact bone and spongy bone. We see compact bone lining the medullary cavity within the shaft of the bone, spongy bone on either ends. Depending upon the maturity, it can be divided into mature or lamellar bone and immature or woven bone, and depending upon the manner of development, it can be either a cartilage bone or a membrane bone. We will see each of this. Now this is a lamellar bone. Lamellar bone is the mature bone, and the basic unit is a lamellus. So you can see this is a lamellus. It is a thin plate of bone which is formed of collagen and mineral salts deposited in a gelatinous ground substance. Now what happens is, as the bone acquires thickness, there occurs stocking of lamellae. One lamellae is stocked over the other, and between adjoining lamellae, spaces are formed. Spaces like this are formed, and these spaces are known as lacunae, and within each lacunae you will find a osteocyte. Osteocytes are the cells of mature bone. We have already studied about osteocytes, and you know that osteocytes are present within the lacunae in the ground matrix. So these lacunae are actually spaces between 2 lamellus, spaces in between the lamellae, and it contains osteocytes. So these are lamellae, and in between lamellae you can find space known as lacunae, and each lacunae contains an osteocytes, and osteocytes has got cytoplasmic projections projecting away from them, coming into contact with the cytoplasmic projection of nearby cells, and spreading out from each lacunae there are fine canals. These canals are known as canaliculi, and canaliculi contains these cytoplasmic processes of osteocytes. So if you remember, one of the function of osteocyte was to maintain the integrity of the canaliculi and lacunae. So this is how it maintains the integrity, because the lacunae contains the osteocyte and the canaliculi contains its cytoplasmic processes. So it keeps the canaliculi and lacunae open for exchange of materials for nutritive function and all. Coming to woven bone is the immature bone. It contains collagen fibers, and collagen fibers are present in bundles, and they run randomly in different directions, interlacing with each other. all newly formed bone is woven bone. So woven bone is an immature bone, and it is later replaced by lamellar bone, which is the mature bone. So we have seen woven bone or immature bone and lamellar bone or mature bone. So this is the pathological implication, Paget's disease of bone. This is due to abnormal persistence of woven bone. We can see that this abnormal persistence of the immature bone or the woven bone can lead to many deformities and also fractures. Coming to the structure of spongy bone. Spongy bone is present on either ends of the bone, right? And it contains meshwork of bony plates or rods called trabeculae. Each trabeculae is made up of a number of lamellae. You can see lamellae here, and this lamellae is contributing to the formation of trabeculae. And you also know that there are spaces in between these trabeculae. So trabeculae encloses wide spaces that are filled by bone marrow. If you remember, bone marrow is found within the shaft and within the spongy bone, right? So this trabeculae is enclosing the spaces that are filled by bone marrow. In this picture, if you can appreciate, this is the trabeculae that is formed by lamellae, and it is enclosing spaces containing bone marrow. Once again here, this is trabeculae formed by lamellae, and it is enclosing bone marrow. So this is the structure of spongy bone, which is found on either ends of the long bones. Now coming to the structure of compact bone. Compact bone is formed by concentric lamellae. We have already seen lamellae, right? So we have seen that lamelles are stacked over each other to form lamellae, to form the lamellar bone. Now here in compact bone, we can see that this lamellae are arranged in a concentric fashion, one over the another. So this is a lamellae, this is another lamellae, and you can see that there are spaces formed in between lamellae. Those spaces are known as lacunae, and within the lacunae you can find a osteocyte, right? And in center you have the Harvatian canal, which contains a nerve fiber, blood vessel and some cells. And this Harvatian canal with the concentric lamellae surrounding it, together it is known as a Harvatian system or a osteon. Harvatian system or osteon. This Harvatian canal can communicate with the external surface via a canal, and that canal is known as Volkmann's canal. So this is the structure of compact bone. You have a central Harvatian canal with blood vessels, nerve fibers and some cells. Surrounding that you have concentric lamellae. Connecting the Harvatian canal to the exterior you have Volkmann's canal. The Harvatian canal and its surrounding lamellae constitute a Harvatian system or an osteon. Now between adjoining osteons there are angular intervals which contain interstitial lamellae. So this is an osteon. So in between two osteons you can see the interstitial lamellae. Then near the surface, this is the surface, near the surface lamellae are arranged parallel to each other. That is known as circumferential lamellae. So you have concentric lamellae which constitute the osteon. You have interstitial lamellae in between the osteons. Then you have circumferential lamellae parallel to the surface. So here, this is the Harvatian canal. You can see the concentric lamellae surrounding it. In between the concentric lamellae you have spaces called lacunae. Each lacunae is filled with an osteocyte. Each osteocyte has got cytoplasmic processes, and the cytoplasmic processes of the adjacent osteocytes will communicate with each other. The Harvatian canal along with the surrounding concentric lamellae is known as a Harvatian system or osteon. Between the osteons there are angular spaces, and these angular spaces are filled with interstitial lamellae. Parallel to the surface you have circumferential lamellae. Okay. So this is the transverse section of the bone. This is what you have to draw. Here you can see the outer fibrous layer of the periosteum, inner circular layer of the periosteum. You can see the circumferential lamellae. Then these are the osteon. This is a central Harvation canal. Surrounding it you can see the concentric lamellae with osteocytes in it. In between the osteons you can see the interstitial lamellae. Okay. This is the longitudinal section of bone. Once again you can see the fibrous layer of periosteum, the cellular layer of periosteum. You can see the osteocytes arranged in lamellae. You can see the Harvation canals, and the Harvation canals are connected to the external surface with the help of Volkmann's canal. Okay, with the help of Volkmann's canal. In between the Harvation canals, the connecting link is interharvation canal. Okay, it is interharvation canal. Now I told you bone can also be classified according to its ossification. It can either be a cartilage bone or a membrane bone. Ossification is the process of bone formation. So if it is preceded by the formation of a cartilaginous model which is subsequently replaced by bone, it is called endochondral ossification. So if there is a cartilaginous model, it is called endochondral ossification. If the bone is laid down directly in a fibrous membrane, it is called intramembranous ossification. So if there is a cartilaginous model, it is endochondral ossification and the bone is a cartilaginous bone. If it is laid down directly in a fibrous membrane, it is intramembranous ossification and it is a membrane bone. Thank you.